Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation is the fourth Shabad, composed by Guru Ram Das, Nanak 4, in Rag Bihagada. 4 stanzas, 4 lines each, so we will go stanza by stanza. The recitation. Bihagada Mahalla Chautha, Hau Balihari Tinh ko meri jindadiye, जिन्हें हर हर नाम आधारो राम, गुर सतगुर नाम दृढ़ाया मेरी जिंदड़िए, बिख पाओ जल तर तारण हारो राम, जिनिक मन हर ते आया मेरी जिंदड़िए, तिन संत जना जयकारो राम, नानक हर जप सुख पाया मेरी जिंदड़िए, सब दुख निवारण हारो Ram. The theme of Nam, knowledge, intuitive knowledge, to be sure, continues in this passage. And the Guru says, and again, the internal dialogue that continues between one's inner core, Meri Jindadiye, and the speaker. The soul is being addressed. That unchanging core within us, the essence, is the Jindadi. And Guru Ram Das says, I remain beholden, he says, to those who have made the wisdom of the self their guide and support. Har har naam adharo Ram. And to those, Hau Balihari Tinh ko. Balihari, submission, following. Because the teachings of the Guru has instilled in them this wisdom, which is innate. Gur Satguru Naam Dridaya. Drid karna, to make resolute, to implant. Bikh pao jal taran haro Ram. So you need this intuitive awareness to figure out how to ferry across existence, which is likened to a treacherous ocean. Paujal, terrifying. Jin ek man harte aaya, jin, those who have fixed their mind unwaveringly on the self, then Sant Jana Jaykaro Ram, they are hailed by the Guru. They have dignified themselves. Nanak har jap sukh paya, meri jindadiye, sab dukh nivaran haro Ram. Nivaran haro, dispeller. Har jap sukh paya, by focusing on the self. Deep meditation on the self, one realizes the self, which then dispels all sorrow, and then well-being and tranquility ensues. So we want to operate in life from this perspective of sukh, well-being, not dukh. In other words, from a very pragmatic viewpoint, we want obstacles to be overcome. We don't want obstacles in the way of what we wish to accomplish. That is the summary of the first verse. And then in the next one, the Guru speaks about the mind that has actually turned inward towards this deep contemplation, and says, Sa rasana tan tan hai meri jindadiye, gun gave har prabh kere Ram. Tan tan. Tan means rich, fulfilled. Rasana here is obviously literally the tongue, but the tongue represents the mind. It expresses what is in the mind. So the mind has changed. Gun gave har prabh kere ram. The tongue becomes blessed. It's worthy of felicitation because it expresses now the virtues of the self. Then he talks about Sravan pale sab neek har meri jindadiye. Sravan, the ears are blessed. You see, because the reason so much emphasis is given to listening, attention, because our attentional frame that we have formed is what really guides us automatically. And the Guru here is asking us to change that attentional frame. And those who succeed in doing it, he says, are blessed indeed, because now they have opened themselves up to something greater, and therefore they are glorified. Similarly, the head that has placed itself at the feet of the Guru is hailed. So sis pala pavitra pavan hai meri jindadiye, jo jaye lage gur pere ram. In other words, the ears that have agreed to open up, because normally we just hear what we want to hear, you see, because our frame is already predefined. But to actually open up your ears, to open up your mind by placing your feet at the Guru's, your head at the Guru's feet, all of this implies that you are now transforming yourself. So, Jin har har naam ch tere ram Nanak varya. So Nanak is a sacrifice to that Guru who enshrines that wisdom in one's heart. And then he speaks about the eyes. Blessed and accepted are those eyes that behold the presence of the One. Their netra pale parwan hai meri jindadiye jo sadhu satguru dekhe ram. Not only that, te hast puneet pavitra hai meri jindadiye jo har jas har har lekhe ram. The hands that write glorification through the hands that praise and glory. It means a completely different life that is emerging. This janke pag, the feet of that person, become worthy of adoration, because now jo marig taram chale se ram, because now they are walking the righteous path. Nanak tin vitton varya meri jindadiye har sun naam manise hai ram. Having heard, having seen, having walked that path, they are now in complete affinity with the self, at one. And then in the concluding verse, the Guru speaks about the elements, about the natural world that he says is in fact in an act of glorification. What that means is that they are aligned to the natural order of things, to the things. They are doing their task in creating abundance for us. Tarat patal akas hai meri jindadiye sab har har naam te aave. So the earth and the underworlds, the skies, they glorify the self. They glorify the self by simply doing what they are meant to do, by staying within that order. They don't violate that order. The human species is perhaps the only one that has this capacity, which is why this instruction is for us. Paun pani be santro meri jindadiye nit har 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 jas gave ram. The wind, the waters, the fire are all glorifying the self. Not only that, but one trin sab akar hai meri jindadiye mukh har har naam te aave ram. One trin, forests, and even each blade of grass and all forms that you see glorify the self. And therefore, Nanak te har dar penaya. They are honored, they are dignified in the presence of the self. Jo gurmukh bhagt man lave ram. Bhagat, bhakti, those who are devoted, who practice devotion. Now that's an interesting idea because bhakti is devotion. Two things here. One, it is a lesson for us from here that in whatever we do, we have to practice it with devotion, with focus, no matter what you're doing. That is at the level of everyday life. But the other question is, what are you going to devote yourself to beyond the day-to-day stuff? What are you devoting yourself to? What is worth devoting oneself to? And the Guru makes it very clear that devotion must be to the self, because the self has to become the guide. It has to become the companion, the guide, to show you how to act in this world in a way that evolves not only the individual, but creates an abundance for everybody else. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.